Okay, for tonight's homework you have page 400 and page 401 and 6 through 27. Okay? 6 through 27, page 400, 401. So we'll get started right away. This homework is just a review of what we've been doing. Excuse me. It's just changing fractions to percents and decimals and vice versa. Number 6, you're going to see there's a grid, and the grid is made, 6 through 10, the grid is made into hundreds. So there's 100 squares in each one of those grids, or boxes. And you have to tell the percent, decimal, and fraction for each one. Okay, so number 6, what you have to do is you have to count the number of boxes that are colored in. And each row has 10 squares in it. So that should kind of help you out. So you can count by tens, and you'd count 100 if you counted all of them. So number 6, the first row is colored in. So we know that's 10. So if I was going to write that as a fraction, I know there's 10 colored in, and there's 100 total. So I would write that 10 out of 100. Okay? Or 10 hundredths. Okay? Now, we're going to come back here in a second, and we're going to simplify this. But before we do that, we're going to change it into a decimal, and then we'll change it into a percent. Okay? So the fraction is 10 hundredths, so we're going to write the decimal the exact same way. So I know there's going to be 2 places in my number, because tenths, hundredths, and I just write it exactly how I say it, 10 hundredths. So 10 hundredths. Okay? Now to change this to a percent, I move the decimal place 2 places over. 1, 2. I would put my percent sign. 1, 2. So this would become 10%. Okay? So let's come back here and simplify. So let's ask ourselves, what's the biggest number that can go into 10 and 100? Okay? If we think about that, we know that 10 can go into both numbers. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. And 10 can go into 100 10 times. So this is the simplified answer, 1/10, the decimal 10 hundredths, and then the percent 10%. Okay? So that's number 6. I'm not going to do any more of these. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all the same. You just got to find out the number that are shaded in, and then do a fraction, decimal, and percent. Let's look at numbers 11 through 20. You have to write each percent as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So if we look at number 11, they give us 65%. Okay? So we know a percent's taken out of 100. So as a fraction, I'm going to write it as 65 hundredths. Again, we'll come back here in a second and we'll simplify it. As a decimal, I write it the exact same way. 65 hundredths. So I know it's 2 places over, 65 hundredths. And then to write that as a percent, move the decimal place 2 places to the to your right. 1, 2. And it is 65%. Okay? So if we come back over here and ask ourselves what number can go into 65 and 100, I know 5 can go into both numbers, so I will divide by 5. Okay? And if we need to, we can do our division if we don't have that in front of us. If we don't know the fact, you can also use a matrix on this. 5 goes into 6 1 times. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Okay? So I know that would be 13 twentieths. 5 goes in 120 times. So that's the fraction simplified. That is our decimal. I move it 2 places over. That gives me my percent. Okay? Let's look at number 12. 12 is 5%. Again, as percent's taken out of 100. So as a fraction, it will be 5 hundredths. As a decimal, I know it's going to be 2 places. I'm going to go to the hundredths place. So I'm going to go tenths, hundredths. So this one, make sure you don't put the 5 here. Make sure you do not do that, because that is 50 hundredths. Okay? That's an easy mistake to make. So I'm going to put a 0 here, and then put a 5 in the hundredths place. So now that would read 5 hundredths. Okay? Much different if we would have had 50 hundredths. Again, to change it into a decimal, I move the decimal 2 places to my right, and that gives me 5%. Okay, if I come back here to the fraction, ask myself what number can go into 5 and 100. I know 5 can. So if I divide each side by 5, 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 100 20 times. So that's my simplified fraction, decimal, percent. Okay? Let's see. So that's 11 through 20. Let's do, we'll do one more. Let's look at number 17. 45%. Okay, again, as a fraction, taken out of 100. Okay. As a decimal, I'm going to say it the same way, 45 hundredths. So I write 45 hundredths, just like I say it. To change it to a percent, I move 2 places over to the right, put my percent sign, and it becomes 45%. Now if I come back over here, I'm going to divide by 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times, and 5 goes into 100 20 times. So my fraction simplified is 9/20ths, as a decimal 45 hundredths, and as a percent 45%. Okay, so again, that's 11 through 20. Let's look at number 24. Okay, guys, it's the same thing we're doing here. It's just it's in a word problem. It says about 16% of the total U.S. land area is in Alaska. Write 16% as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so again, they're giving us 16%. They want us to write it as a decimal. Okay, so if I'm writing this as a decimal, I start on my percent. I go 2 places to my left. 1, 2. Now I put my decimal. So as a decimal, it would be 16 hundredths. And then as a fraction, I just say it. I write it exactly how I say it. 16 hundredths. Okay. Again, if I simplify it, 2 goes into 16. We can divide by 2. 2 goes into 16 8 times. And 2 goes into 100 50 times. Okay, so I'm left with 8 50ths. I'm going to have to simplify that further, so I'll divide that by 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 goes into 50 25 times. So as simplified, 4 25ths is my fraction, and as a decimal, it's 16 hundredths. Alright? Okay, so that's tonight's homework. Again, page 400 and 401, numbers 6 through 27. Again, 6 through 10 shouldn't be much problem. All those are taken out of 100. Just count the parts that are shaded. 11 through 20, we did a couple of those together, and then we did one of the word problems together. All right?